any property manager or landlord, it's obvious that one of the most important things in the job is to collect rent. Rent is arguably what keeps property managers afloat, as the rent is the one thing that makes an investment property profitable. However, before collecting rent, not a lot of people think about the various methods that exist. This may cause some property managers to be missing out on some more effective rent collection methods. If you are yet to decide your rent collection method, or you want to change things up, you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll be going over some of the best and the worst rent collection methods that exist. At the end, we have also included some property management software to completely streamline rent collection. So let's get started. As mentioned before, collecting rent is essential in any property management business. If the tenant doesn't pay rent, the responsibility falls to the property manager or the landlord. This is a problem because that means that the property will no longer be profitable. It will be quite the opposite, actually. Since collecting rent is so important, it's even more important to have an effective form of collecting the rent payments. This may not seem like a pressing issue, but there are actually a lot of complications that can possibly occur. In order to get the full amount for rent and on time, it's vital that the rent collection method you choose is sufficient. This means that the method should protect against situations like missing money, late payments, or missing payments. Some collection methods easily achieve this, while some carry a higher risk. However, there are many other factors that one must consider before choosing one of these methods. Let's go over some of those factors that heavily affect the way that a landlord collects the rent. First is the location. One of the most important factors to consider when making this decision is the location of the rental properties that are paying rent. If the properties are really close to you, then it might not be too much of a hassle to stop by and collect the rent personally. However, if the properties are very far apart from each other, you may want to collect rent online. Another factor that's important to consider is the number of properties that you'll be collecting rent from. This is important because if you only have 1 or 2 properties, you can stop by each one and collect the rent personally. However, when you have more properties, this obviously becomes a problem. Even if you have a small number of properties that are close by, you still may not want to personally collect rent. This is important to acknowledge because some landlords simply don't have an interest in forming a personal connection with the tenant. If this is the case, a more technical solution might be best. The next factor you should be considering is how tech savvy you are. If you're not very tech savvy, of course it might not be the wisest choice to choose a solution that requires the use of technology. However, if you're more knowledgeable in tech, you may want a more technology-oriented solution. So now we can actually get into rent collection methods. This is a list of the best rent collection methods that you can use to collect rent from your tenants quickly and effectively. However, all these methods do have their drawbacks, which will be discussed. First up is online rent payments. Out of all the methods on this list, collecting your rent payments through an online system is the easiest. Using this method, there is little to no interaction between the tenant and the landlord. This means that your tenants can send the rental payments straight from their house and you can receive them from yours. Also, if you're renting out to younger generations, this is a method that they'll be expecting to use. This way of collecting rent also allows the landlord to set up reminders so that the tenant will never miss a payment. It's also convenient for the tenant as it usually allows them to set up reoccurring payments. These online payments allow the tenant and the landlord to completely automate the rent payment process, which there's really nothing better than automation. The second method of collecting rent is collecting it in person. This method has its benefits, but it also has many drawbacks. One of the main benefits is that you get a chance to visit the property each month. That means during your visit, you can perform a short inspection and do routine maintenance. This also gives the tenant a chance to talk to you about any issue they may be experiencing. They're also much less likely to make late rent payments if they know you're going to be showing up in person. However, there are some drawbacks. One of the main drawbacks applies if you have a large number of properties. Having a large number of properties means that you have to do a lot of traveling to collect the rent. This could be very cumbersome. There could also be problems if the tenant is not home and you show up. And another thing to note is that you should always go to the tenant to collect rent, not the other way around. There's a general rule of thumb that the landlord should never reveal their home address to the tenants. This is because there are some situations in property management that can lead to unpleasant altercations. In these cases, you don't want the tenant to have your address or be showing up at your door. The next option is setting up a drop box. This method really only applies if you have multi-unit properties housing multiple tenants. This method consists of setting up a deposit box or a drop box where each tenant deposits their rent every month. This method allows for cash payments or checks since it has to be physically deposited. This is one of the only ways to collect rent where you actually risk losing all the rent in one instant. To protect this from happening, it's really important to set up some security around the deposit box to make sure that the tenants do not steal from the box. Another way to collect rent payments is by collecting rent online via ACH payments. ACH uses online payment services to easily send money from one bank to another. This method requires a one-time setup with the tenant and they must authorize bank information. This method is also very very convenient because of how secure and easy it is. Since they go straight from one bank account to another, there's no human interaction whatsoever. The only drawback is that the payment takes around 3 days to arrive after being sent. And another way to collect rent is by utilizing online payment apps. This includes apps like Zelle, Venmo, or PayPal. The most popular one is PayPal since most people already have a PayPal. All it takes is simply getting the account information from your tenant and everything is set. However, there are some drawbacks to consider. One of those being the fees associated with the services. For example, if you open a PayPal business account, you'll be charged 2.9% plus a $30 fee for every transaction. Another drawback is there's not buyer and seller protections with these services. This is because they were really designed to be sending money in between friends and family. And the last method we'll be discussing is using property management software. Using software not only allows you to quickly and easily collect rent from tenants, but also allows you to streamline various other aspects of your business. By paying for property management software, you can facilitate electronic payments via bank transfer, credit card, debit card, or ACH. The software will also grant the tenant their own tenant portal, equipped with automatic payments, payment reminders, and much more. If you're interested in investing in property management software, you should definitely check out DoorLoop. DoorLoop's an all-in-one property management solution that covers all aspects of property management. The software provides all the tools and functionality that any property manager will need to transform their property management business. Now, I am biased because I do work at DoorLoop and this is the DoorLoop YouTube channel, but I really think that you'll love it. Some of our features include a maintenance management system, which allows you to create and track maintenance requests, a tenant portal, which allows for quick and seamless communication between the tenant and the property manager. The tenants can also pay rent and other fees from the same place. We have a full accounting suite where you can manage all of your property accounting from one place, even with the QuickBooks integration. And we have stellar customer service, with around-the-clock customer service available to assist with any issues or concerns with the software. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then click the link in the description for a free demo. I hope this video helped you figure out a method you want to try for collecting rent. Check out this video for some awesome book recommendations every landlord should read, and don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!